Well, my name's Mike Wineland, and I first joined Poultry Science Association back in 1971. I had just restarted graduate school then. I finished my bachelor's in '68 and started graduate school then, but then I got drafted into the Army and spent my time in the Army, got out, started back with Bernie Wentworth in physiology, and stayed here for a good number of years. I grew up in a town called Kenosha, Wisconsin. My dad was a teacher, my mother a homemaker, 2 brothers and a sister. My grandparents had a farm that was primarily a dairy farm, about 100 miles north of Kenosha. That's where I spent my summers. I was put to work up there during the summertime, working on the farm. And then my dad and, well, the whole family would go up about once a month and help my uncle out with chores and things like that on the weekend, so give him a little bit of a break. It was fun growing up. I was interested in agriculture because I had been on my grandparents' farm so much. I sort of got involved in poultry because the first poultry course I took, had 2 professors were teaching it, and they just sort of suck you into poultry, Enjoyed them a lot. It was a small department at the time. I just hit it off with them. It was a great group of people to be involved with. The poultry club, we did a number of different things, taking trips every spring break, going to poultry operations, During graduate school, had a great group of people. Again, as I said, I was working under Bernie Wentworth. He was a great mentor. We had a reproductive program within the university here that encompassed a lot of different departments. One of the things that we did as a group was we had a seminar, sort of, that started about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Fridays and would end sometime Saturday morning down at the Badger Tavern. My graduate research dealt with turkey breeders, and I was looking how light affects the onset of production in turkey hens. We would do such things as hypox the birds and look at hormonal concentrations. That was primarily the work I was involved in. Back then they didn't have radioimmunoassay kits. We had to develop our own assays. Ended up having to shear some sheep and take some steroid hormones that were conjugated to PSA and immunize the sheep and do that a number of times, and then start bleeding the sheep and checking for titers of antibodies and things like that, so that eventually I could get the assay going. It was fun. West Virginia University, it was my first job away from University of Wisconsin. I was an extension specialist, 100%, and I had the responsibilities for producing educational programming and research for the broiler industry, the turkey industry, the commercial layer industry, and the rabbit industry as such. And it was enjoyable. I enjoyed the job. Great people. Had a good mentor there, Ed Collins at WVU. And but I was really quite diverse in what my responsibilities were. I was to do a rabbit program down in southwestern West Virginia, in Logan County. And if you know anything about West Virginia, Logan County is a coal mining area. And at the time, there was a miners' strike. And I got a call from the county agent, Ron Swoop was his name. He said, "Mike, I think we better cancel the program, because if you come down here in a state car, you might get shot." And I think about that a lot. I had some good friends back there in West Virginia. The people I worked with out in the field were fabulous. My responsibilities at North Carolina State were going to be with the broiler breeder industry and the hatchery industry in the state. When you're out in the field working with industry and you help them with a problem, at the end of it, whether it took you a day or whether it took you a week or a month on helping them, they would say, thank you, we really appreciate it. And that happened, I'm happy to say, numerous times. I think developing the incubation and hatchery program at NC State that I did initiated with Vern Christensen, who retired a number of years ago. But I was able to collaborate with Vern towards the beginning of my career there at NC State. And while he worked with turkeys and my responsibilities with broilers, I could suck him into working on broilers too, as long as I helped him with some of the turkey stuff. And it worked out good. We collaborated very well. We did some great work, I thought. And we eventually took our research that we did and developed the North Carolina Hatchery Management Workshop, which was for hatchery managers and out in the field. And with that, I mean, we did that for a number of years for both turkey and broiler hatchery managers. We were able to touch not only domestic, the U.S. hatchery industry and the Canadian industry, but we had the opportunity to also have come in for the workshop hatchery managers from Europe, from Asia, and South America. And I still see some of those people in my travels today. I enjoyed the extension work. I enjoyed working with people out in the field. It's always challenging. It's not like you have to be necessarily having a class on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 7:45 in the morning. It's could mean you get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go somewhere. It might mean you don't get back till 1 o'clock in the morning. But it's the people that make it enjoyable. I had a couple of graduate students myself, and I served on a number of graduate committees. I learned from them just as much, which is a very satisfying feeling. It's been very enjoyable. I probably been doing it now for close to 20 years, and you see a lot of different students from a lot of different backgrounds, and they keep you on your toes. You know, they can come up with some good questions, and my interaction with them, since I didn't teach formally down at North Carolina State or West Virginia University, it's been an enjoyable little side activity for me. Bernie Wentworth, who was my major professor as both a master's and a PhD student, Ed Collins at WVU, who was my boss in extension, he really taught me about extension work. And then that was reinforced when I went to NCSU by working with Tom Carter, who was the extension leader at the time. Both those people helped me with extension. And then, of course, being able to collaborate with Vern Christensen at NC State. People starting their careers, the students need to listen more than they speak. Always be ready for an opportunity, because you never know when it's going to arise. Be able to work collaboratively with other people. You're going to accomplish a lot more. I've got a wife, Nancy. We're going to be married 45 years come June 3rd. She always was there. Didn't mind making some moves that we made. She was supportive in decisions I made. And when times got tough, she was there too. She was a nurse. She was involved in kidney transplant. Eventually she went into hemodialysis and heart catheterization. Towards the end of her career then, she was involved in the dreaded insurance companies, being a case manager for them. Got 2 kids. Brett, he's a physical therapist now. Katie, she's a dietitian working at a hospital. one grandson, Chase, who's smart as a whip. And we just recently moved to a little town called Roseville, North Carolina. We sold our house in Raleigh, built a house there. That way we're only 2 minutes from our grandson, because we help out a lot. Got a workshop, so I can do some woodworking now. And bought a new set of golf clubs when I retired, although I don't get out as often as probably most people think I should, because I have been still active in the poultry industry. Used to play soccer until about 3 years ago. And when my wife and my family asked me to quit because they didn't want to pick me up, they didn't want to pick me up anymore at the urgent care center or at the emergency room. So I had to quit. I do a lot of consulting, and my wife is fine with that. And, you know, after 3 days of being home, she says, "When you leaving again?" So, you know, it's time to go somewhere. And it's provided me an opportunity. I see places I never would have thought I'd see. I mean, I had last September, I was over in China, and I took some extra time, and I walked 6 kilometers along the Great Wall of China, and it was some good memories on some of these trips. So get up 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning. I go to bed earlier though too, but you know, that comes from doing hatchery work where you had to get up early to be at the hatchery early enough to be there when they pulled first birds. In a lot of respects, probably it's sort of an acknowledgement of the work you've done with regards to poultry. I would think that it probably has something to do with the fact that I've been involved actively in the association, which I think everyone should be doing in some sort of way. You know, even if it's just simply reviewing manuscripts. We need to give back to the association. You know, for the most part, that's it. And to have an effect on me in the future, I'm too old for that. You know, but it's a great acknowledgement of my efforts in the past with the association and with the poultry industry.